I think we need to get rid of passwords. Almost on a weekly basis, I get alerts saying that your information got leaked because database of this particular company got breached. I think we need to, as an industry, move beyond passwords and to more trusted solutions. If you are building a B2B application and going after enterprise customers, 100% chance that you will be asked to integrate with their identity provider via SAML and OIDC or Auth, any other protocol, right? So predominantly as a B2B founder, you need to look at the landscape as, hey, I need to implement 5-6 different ways of letting users log into my particular product. You need to figure out how to build each of them securely, but at the same time making sure that your users have a better time using your product and logging in.
Thank you so much for doing this, Ravi. I think it's been a while that we caught up, but yeah, great to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me, Adi.
So I think I would love to start with the story of how we met, which is very interesting and very Bangalore-ish. So I think it was about a year ago, and we were in a WeWork. I remember I was talking to my tech team members, something around authentication, and we were basically complaining like, okay, why is this so hard? And I think you overheard us, and then you came and talked about like what you were building and so on. And that's how we met, which is very, very Bangalore.
Yeah. So I still keep meeting a lot of people in the same thing. Like I keep walking around WeWork, either to get a coffee or water or something. And then I keep hearing words like, oh, we had this problem with SAML or this two-factor authentication. Then I immediately go to them and then say, hey, we are doing this. I just want to hear more about what you're going through, right? Again, the idea is not to talk about what we are building, which we'll do in a while, but trying to understand more about what they're going through. What are the challenges? Because I've been through that in the last 8 years or so in different journeys. So I think I can relate to, at least to a certain degree, what are the challenges that we're facing. And again, it's more an effort to understand the journey that they're going through and see if I can help them in any way, not just necessarily from a Scalekit point of view, but in general, can I help them, right? That's the whole idea. And it's actually great to meet that way because it's very contextual. Yeah.
So what was the moment that led you to start Scalekit?
It's a very planned and it's a planned journey in the sense that before Scalekit, we were with Freshworks. We've been there for 7 years, and we wanted to see the company go through the IPO journey, and we were very, very glad that we did through the journey. And after, we want to take a break and then start again because this is a second journey. And at the time, we want to be very conscious about the problems that we are solving and about the persona whom we are solving for. And the biggest thing that we had in mind is, hey, I want to be able to relate to this problem, to this persona, so that I can actually enjoy the solving part of it, right? So that's when we looked at, okay, what did we go through in the last 10 years? What problems did we solve? What is our strength and expertise, right? So I've been leading product management for platforms team at Freshworks. And for 5-6 years, I've spent solving application security related challenges. Freshworks is a multi-product company, so we were solving authentication, authorization, encryption key management and stuff like that. So that came naturally to us. We saw that we spent a lot of time building that infrastructure to make the Freshworks products enterprise ready. So then we looked at the market. We realized that almost every B2B company that is going after enterprise customers will have to go through the same journey, and there are not a lot of good solutions out there in the market. That's when we realized, hey, why should every company go build these solutions in-house? We should be able to let the B2B companies focus on what their core problem is. Like Gen Admin, you're trying to solve a problem for HR folks and ID folks. Your engineering team's bandwidth is better spent focusing on those specific problems, not necessarily how do your customers log into your product or what kind of role access control that you want to offer to your customers. That is very, very important and critical, but that's not why you're getting your customers for, right? Your customers are buying Gen Admin because they see value in the problem that you're solving, right? And so that's actually what we want to do. So we started Scalekit to help B2B products spend more time solving problems that they care about and letting us help them get and acquire enterprise customers very, very quickly. So we want to accelerate your roadmap to get your B2B product enterprise ready. So that's the whole idea. So again, we always loved working with developers. Again, being a platform product manager, being an engineer in the past, that person is something that I can relate to. And I've really enjoyed talking to developers. There's no fluff. There's no salesy kind of a thing. You know what you're going to get from them. So it's very easy talking to them. And that's when I realized, hey, I think this is a good problem. We know what we did. We know the persona whom we are going after. We like solving problems for that persona. So it came naturally, organically. We did the market research. We spoke to 100 companies in the B2B space. What are the problems that they're going through? What are the journey that they're going through? And that's when we realized, okay, the market is big. The problem is real. We have the expertise to solve this problem because we've already done this a couple of times in the past. And we like solving this problem for these people. So that's where the journey started. We just want to make building B2B products easy. If you take a step back, before the likes of AWS, Azure, and GCP came in, every company kind of built their own hardware. Like they used to buy servers, they used to buy RAM, they used to buy storage, and they used to assemble. They had to have leased Ethernet connected to that. It's not the most important thing for you while you're solving a problem. And that's when the likes of AWS said, hey, we are democratizing the entire infrastructure for you. Focus on your product, focus on your problem, focus on your customers, right? We want to do the same thing for application infrastructure problems for every B2B company out there. So we're starting with authentication because that's the most critical piece. And then we'll eventually expand. Yeah.
Got it. I mean, as a CTO, I can really relate to the problem that you're solving, because at every company that I've worked at, I have had to solve it over and over and over again. And I'm also like, okay, what am I doing? Like, why am I just repetitively solving this? Like, this should be plug and play. Yeah. So tell us more about the Scalekit product. What does it offer?
So right now we're offering enterprise authentication use cases. So if you take the journey of a B2B product, you would build some sort of an MVP, try to sell it to an early stage customers or someone that you know who validate your problems. And then eventually when you're succeeding, when you have like 50, 100 customers, eventually you want to go after enterprise customers because that's where most of the money is coming from. And when you do that, these enterprise customers come to you with a lot of demands. Hey, do you support single sign-on? Do you support two-factor authentication? Do you support automatic user provisioning? Do you support ZIP provisioning? A bunch of acronyms and abbreviations get thrown around, and then you're like just hurrying around and then figuring out how to fit them in your roadmap, along with expanding your product feature capabilities to make that enterprise sales happen. So today, what we are helping is if you're a B2B product and you're going after enterprise customers, you can use Scalekit to add enterprise authentication and user management use cases to your product in like less than a day. If you have an enterprise customer or if you have a deal waiting for SAML single sign-on to happen, you can work with Scalekit and then add that feature to your product in less than a day and then get that enterprise deal. So that's what we are solving today. So we are helping B2B products get their enterprise authentication user management roadmap done and then acquire those enterprise customers.
Tell us about your ideal customer. Who should be the person that should go and think, okay, this is something I need?
Yeah. So typically it would be Series A, Series B B2B products who have a basic authentication system in their product already to let their customers log into the product. And they're now expanding their customer persona to enterprise customers. Those are the real ideal set of customers because they are the ones where they have product market fit for their product. And that's why they're Series A, Series B funded companies. And now they want to really accelerate their product roadmap. So they want to focus on, hey, how do I add more value to my customers? How do I acquire more customers? How do I go up market? So those are the companies really who found value in Scalekit because we can let them focus on their product roadmap and then leave it to Scalekit to work on the things like SSO, SAML, OIDC, all this, and then help get to that up market of enterprise customers really, really quickly. So, funny story, we had this Series A funded company out of Bangalore who reached out to us from a VC Connect. They had a deal blocking because they didn't have SAML single sign-on. And this enterprise customer said, hey, we like your product, but then you don't have SAML single sign-on. My IT team won't let me purchase this product unless you support it. So they reached out to us via our common VC network, and they spoke to us on a Thursday evening and then went live with SAML single sign-on a Monday morning. So that was really mind-blowing because it was in the early stages of Scalekit product as well. We're just figuring out the marketing motions and all. They reached out to us. They told us this is what we want. And then when we gave them a product, they went entirely self-serve. And then they went live in a day with a real customer. So that was very fulfilling. So that we were able to help them acquire an enterprise customer and then make their product better for their customers in just a day. That was a fantastic validation for us.
Can you talk a little bit more about what exactly do enterprises look for? So as let's say an early stage B2B SaaS, what should I expect when I go to sell to enterprises? What do they want from me and why do they want those things?
It's a great question, right? And it sort of is a blind spot to most B2B founders too, because it comes out of nowhere. Okay, there are typically 4 areas that any enterprise company is looking when they're evaluating or buying a B2B product, right? One is application security. When I mean by application security, hey, my IT team has these regulations or my vendor procurement team has these set of checklists that they have to integrate with my identity provider for single sign-on. I should be able to automatically manage which users should have access, which users should not have access. Not just which users have access, but which users have what access. That's where the role-based access control, fine-grained control comes in. How are you encrypting the data? Are you using your own tokens? Can I use my encryption keys? I want to be in control of when these keys should be rotated. So all of this comes in the umbrella of application security, right? That has nothing to do with your product, right? It doesn't matter what product that you're selling, CRM, marketing software, IT software, doesn't matter. You have to tick those checklists for them to even consider to buy a B2B product, right? The second thing that enterprise customers typically look at is, of course, your product specific workflows. Can I customize, because I have certain workflows in my company, I don't want to change them. I want to make sure that your product can fit to my workflows. Can you integrate with different other solutions that I've already bought? What sort of workflows can I manage myself? Can I implement it for my specific use cases, right? So it's more about the capability depth and customizability and the workflows and automation. All of that will come into that particular workflow. It depends, again, completely from one B2B product to another B2B product. If you're building a CRM, they would look for, how do my sales ops team manage this? How do my sales reps use this? Can this data go to my product team, or can the marketing data come in here? So they look for all these sort of different workflows and use cases that they look at. The third is more about reliability and performance. Like, how good are you? Like, if I have 1,000 sales reps, or if I have 100 users or 400 users, can you handle the load? Or do you buckle under pressure? How available are you? Because if you go down, it doesn't matter how much I'm paying you for, I can't use the product. So they look for, how reliable is your product? How performant is your product? If, like, for example, if you use the likes of Google Docs, you know that more often than not, it just works. You don't have to worry about, you make a change and the next person who's collaborating with you, they're automatically seeing the change within like 2-3 seconds, even less than that, like much more often. So that's the reliability and that's the performance guarantees that they look for from any B2B product when an enterprise company is evaluating it, right? The fourth thing is more of a combination of all these things. They look for, how mature are you? What is your posture when it comes to how are you building this product, right? That's where the compliance comes in. Compliance is not just about what is your network infrastructure, what is your application infrastructure. It's also about, how do your employees build this product, right? What does your release lifecycle look like? If there is a bug or if there is a security vulnerability found, like, what is your response to such thing? Like, Do you have kind of what kind of employees have access to my data in your particular product? So it's a kind of mix of the application security that we spoke about earlier, kind of performance and reliability guarantees that we spoke about, and also about how are your employees building this product? What kind of employees are using this? What kind of access do your employees have to my data? So all of this comes into picture. That's where they look for some sort of guarantees, because they can't go evaluate each company internals by themselves. They look for some sort of certification. Hey, are you SOC 2 certified? Are you ISO certified? Do you have GDPR compliance and things like that? So this is where the data privacy comes in. This is where all the compliance regulations comes in. This is where typically what they're looking for is, in other words, how mature are you as a company? Because I don't want to trust my business and trust my workflows on a product that may not exist 2 years down the line. So they want some sort of guarantees on, hey, you're a mature company, you know what you're doing, before I purchase the decision. So it's typically, these are the 4 different vectors that every enterprise customer would look at while they're evaluating any B2B.
So, as an early stage B2B that is just exploring a GTM motion targeting enterprises, what should I as a founder expect? Like, where would I have to invest my time, resources, human capital to actually accomplish these objectives for me to be able to successfully sell to enterprises?
Yeah, I think there are 2 areas that you should focus on. One is security. If I am advising a B2B company that is going after enterprise customers very early into the life cycle, I would say, if you want to deprioritize certain product capabilities just so that you can improve your security posture, I would say go ahead and do it. It doesn't matter what kind of security parameters that you're looking at. It can be network security, it can be infrastructure security, it can be application security. Doesn't matter. Just make sure that everything is bolted, locked on. Just make sure that you're even getting your product tested from multiple fronts. If necessary, get a external vendor to do a penetration test for you, not just 1, 2 vendors. Just make sure that you're completely foolproof from the security point of view. It's okay even if you don't have all the product capabilities versus your competitors, but this is something that you should handle from the top. Otherwise, it just gets extremely hard for you to make a product secure later, because every architecture decision that you take should be focused on, how do I make my product secure, right? The second thing is about customizability, right? You can't take this for granted. Especially in the B2B product, this is the biggest difference between a B2B product and a B2C product. In a B2C product, more often than not, almost every user who is using your product will behave in a certain way. So, for example, Swiggy. Every user who goes to Swiggy wants to browse through restaurants, order something, and then expect that order to be delivered in a certain time frame. That is the defined behavior of a user who is using a B2C product like Swiggy. But when someone is buying a B2B product, it's a company that's making a decision, and every company operates differently. They want to make sure that this product works for me and not the other way around. They don't go look at, hey, can I just go use the product from day one? They look at, okay, does this have basic capabilities? And can I make this product integrate with the rest of the tools that I have, or modify the certain workflows to make it fit to what my employees already know about? So customizability, every customer for a B2B company has completely different set of requirements. I'm not saying that your product is becoming a service business, but 60% of a product will work the same for all of them. But the remaining 40%, how customizable can you make it for each customer? Like, because everyone wants to make the tool work for them. They don't want to work for the tool. I think that's a fundamental distinction that every B2B company founder or a CTO should realize upfront. Hey, can I solve a problem? They're not buying a product. They're trying to find a solution to the problem, right? And your tool should become that solution. Like, they should not spend their time figuring out how the tool works. They should not change their entire company process to make the tool work. They're not in that business. They have a problem. They're trying to find a tool that solves the problem. If you can solve it to 60-70% without them having to do, that's great. If you can customize the product to help them solve 100% of the problem, not even 100%, 90% of the problem, I think you're just going to make dollars. So if I'm a founder or a CTO building a B2B company, I think these are the two things that I would take very seriously from the start, because these two are those things that you can't add at a later time. You can add a feature at a later time. You can change your deployment from, let's say, AWS to GCP. These are all reversible changes, but not having a very secure posture from day one, not thinking about how your product can be customized to solve a problem for your customers from day one, I think that's going to be a costly mistake.
Let's go back to the early days of Scalekit. Let's start by, can you tell us about your co-founder? How did you guys meet, and how did you guys decide to take the plunge together?
Yeah, it's actually, we go a long way back, right? So me and Satya, my co-founder, started another journey in 2012. Again, Satya was coming off another startup that is getting acquired by Ibibo Group. I was in Redbus at the time, sitting on the other side of the table doing due diligence for Ibibo Group, should they acquire Satya's startup or not. So it's a funny coincidence the way we met. And then when Satya was exiting that startup, he had a new idea about how kind of SMB companies are struggling to run their businesses because there are just too many cloud tools at the time, and they're solving too many problems. Like each marketing team, for example, in a company would have 10-15 tools, and similarly a division of sales would have 20 other tools. So that means the data is completely fragmented. So he had this idea of, like, can we make the data integration easier for SMBs, right? So we kind of met at an alumni event after the due diligence process that I spoke about. He pitched this idea to me, and at the same time, Redbus also got acquired by Ibibo Group. Again, we're talking about 2012, 2013 timeframe. I was also thinking of coming out and then starting my own, and we kind of hit it off very, very easily. We come from the same college, Bitspilani. We kind of vibe to the same kind of music, same kind of conversations. We both like sports, music, and all that. And our conversation was very, very organic. And even though he's 3 years senior to me, we became friends very, very closely. So we did that journey for 3-4 years, and we exited the company to Freshworks. And then when we spent some time in Freshworks, and I spoke about when we're thinking of coming out, again, it's just so natural for us to do it together, because I think more than anything else, the relationship between co-founders should be built on extremely high trust. And then I kind of trusted Satya a lot, and Satya trusts me a lot. So it's very, very easy and natural for us to have good conversations, but also more importantly, very, very ugly and nasty conversations. And we know that our egos are not at play here. It's just that we're trying to solve a problem. He's doing a role, I'm doing a role, and then we're trying to make each other better, and then make the whole company better and product better. So it kind of, it's very, very easy and natural for us to start again. Again, I think the urge of doing something bigger, doing something better is always there. We kind of felt that our previous exit is kind of an unfinished business. So yeah, I mean, that's the whole idea and rationale. We want to build a company that lasts for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, not just a product that you build and sell it after 3-4 years, right? That's the kind of mindset and ideology that we both share right now.
So what's the 10-year vision of Scalekit? Like, where do you see this headed in the long term?
Yeah, so we really want to help B2B products get to the product that they're building really, really quickly. So in my previous journey, I saw that 20, 25%, 30% of the engineering team is spent on capabilities that are critical to package the product to be able to sell to customers, but they're not directly adding a specific value for the customer that is trying to solve a problem.
That is still the case today.
That is still the case today. And like, it doesn't make sense. Why are you wasting 30% of your engineering bandwidth that doesn't directly add value, because you're just adding things so that you can sell the product, right? So we want to be there, where we become kind of AWS or a GCP as an application infrastructure layer for every B2B product. So they can focus on what is core to them, what is important to them, what is the actual problem that they're trying to solve. Again, we are attempting this in 3 acts. The first act is what we are going through right now. We want to solve the authentication and authorization problem for the B2B products. Next, we'll go after the adjacencies like audit logs and feature management and entitlements and all that. And then later, we want to eventually expand to every other area like notifications and things like that. So that, again, the idea is, if you have a product idea, if you have a small team of 3 or 4 folks, you just want to get started on validating that particular problem, build a product, sell it to 5 customers. You shouldn't have to build all these wrapper components around your product so that you can make it sales ready. Scalekit should do that for you in less than a week. That's the whole vision that we're going after. Can we really democratize a lot more B2B product leaders realize their vision of solving a specific problem that they want to solve?
So you spoke about one of the early customer journeys where a customer was able to get up and running in a matter of hours to days. Any other customer journeys come to mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is one other funny thing. So there's a customer in US. Again, they're a distributed company. They have their developers sitting in Latin America. We, to this day, we don't know how they discovered us. But out of the blue, they reached out on LinkedIn saying, hey, I went through your website. I know this is what you're solving. So I want to add this feature to my product. Can you help me? Right. So at the time, we haven't opened up self-serve signups because we are still on this private beta mode where we want to invite whom we are inviting to the platform, because we want to be in the control. We want to be in control of the whole product onboarding journey. We're still, again, like I spoke about the wrapper components, we're still building those wrapper components ourselves, right? So we quickly gave them a sandbox account that they could try out by themselves. We pointed them to our developer documentation saying, hey, these are our APIs. We have a few SDKs. You can play around and let us know if I can do a demo for you so that I can show you how the product works and all that. Because we are still in the mode of, hey, I want to control the experience. I want to help them onboard to our platform. So we did not hear back from that company for the next, 5 days or so. And then out of the blue, he sends a Slack message. So we create a Slack Connect group for every prospect that we're onboarding so that we can be there in person. So they drop a message in Slack saying that, hey, I don't see how to pay your product in your product yet. Like, I didn't even know that you have implemented us. So we told them, don't worry about payment. Just go use your product. We haven't still set up billing and payments yet. We didn't have a Stripe account because we are just focused on, hey, can we make sure that we can add value to the problem that we're solving, right? We're still in that mode. We're still operating in a mode where we are a private beta company. Let's not worry about revenue. So that is a very fantastic motivation. That means they didn't get a demo from us like every other prospect that gets. We didn't help them how to exactly use our product to get value out of a product. They figured it out themselves. That means the problem is so acute for them that they spent time, they went through the documentation by themselves, and then they're like, I want to pay because this is actually solving a problem for us, right? That's a huge validation for us. Like, 2 terms. One is, hey, this problem is real because they want to pay. They're talking about payments. 2, the problem is so acute that they're researching online about companies that solve this particular problem, right? That's how they discovered us, because we didn't market it to them, right? So that is a huge validation for the kind of product that we're building and whom we are building it for. and the value that we are adding, right? So that is a very fantastic journey that motivated the entire team, and it brought a smile to all of us, because it's an unknown person who's saying, "Take my money." There is no bigger validation than someone saying, "I'll give you money." So that's a great experience.
Yeah, that's what you want to see as a B2B SaaS founder.
Exactly. Yeah.
How does Scalekit stack up to something like a Auth 0?
Yeah, it's a great question, right? Um, Again, we are going after a very, very specific market. That is the B2B companies, B2B products, founders and CTOs that are building B2B products, right? Yes, Auth0 is a very well-known brand in the authentication space. When Auth0 first started in like 2012, 2013, there are not a lot of companies or products that are built to solve authentication for products, right? There were the likes of Microsoft and Entra who were trying to solve employee identity and authentication, but there is not a lot of products that are solving customer identity and authentication. So when Auth0 started, there is a rage of B2C companies, the likes of Facebook, the likes of Twitter, the likes of Instacart, and all these things, right? They needed a really powerful and scalable authentication platform. So Auth0 came to the market and then filled that gap, right? So Auth0 is a very, very good product. Again, I have a lot of respect for what they have done, for the kind of education and awareness that they brought into the whole market, saying authentication is something that it's better left to someone who knows it the most. And they really solve the problem for a lot of B2C products out there, right? And because they're focusing predominantly for the B2C products, their entire architecture revolves around how a user logs in, right? When we did evaluate Auth0 in my previous company to use, we realized that that is actually creating a lot more problems than it's solving, because we're a B2B product. That means our primary entity that we need to integrate with is an organization or a customer or a tenant or an account, whatever you want to call it, and users belong to these organizations, right? So that fundamental distinction is what made that product kind of very, very hard for us to integrate in a B2B product, right? So that is the whole problem statement that we came out and then said, hey, we are building an authentication and authorization platform that is purpose built for B2B products. We take care of your organization. We take care of your multi-tenancy needs. We take care of your customization needs. Like I said earlier, every enterprise customer wants the product to behave in a certain way. That means they want the auth also to behave a certain way. So they ask for, hey, do you support SAML single sign-on with my custom identity provider, right? So we are trying to build a very, very focused product for the B2B companies. Again, if you are building a B2C company, let's say Swiggy, for example, Auth0 is a good solution. No two questions about it, right? But if you're building a B2B product, we are the solution for you. So that's the distinction that we're going after. We want to be very, very specific about the problem that we are solving and whom we are solving for.
Going on a bit of a tangent, I was thinking about that the decision to adopt something like Scalekit for someone like me, for someone like a CTO, it comes down to, do I build or do I buy? So how do you recommend folks in this situation to make this build versus buy decision?
Okay, there are a funny answer to that. Engineers don't want to buy anything. We want to build everything in-house because our ego is at stake here. But I think that is changing, Adi, and it's changing drastically. We are seeing a lot of patterns where engineering leaders are now wants to focus on only specific things that they want to build because of two reasons. One, the engineering talent has become extremely costly. So they're very mindful of where they're dedicating and spending their engineering resources on. Number two is the whole mindset of the kind of engineering leaders that are there today versus the kind of engineering leaders that were there 10 years back is extremely different, right? Now we want to focus on things that are important, and they're very, very specific about what do I need to focus my energies on, right? And there are a lot of solutions out there in the market today. That's also a big reason. Like 10 years back, if you look at it, there are not a lot of solutions. So you had to build everything. There is no other choice. But now with the mushrooming of a lot of different SaaS products for every niche, you know that there is a solution out there. And the whole iPhone and Android ecosystem kind of tuned us to the habit of, hey, there must be an app for that, rather than saying, I don't know how it needs to be done, right? So this whole search if there is a solution exists outside, that shift is extremely great in the last 4 or 5 years. Previously, I think engineering leaders used to think, okay, if you need to solve the problem, we need to build it. Maybe the max that we are looking for is there an open source solution that I can use and make it my own? But now it's like, is there a vendor that solves a particular problem, and can I integrate that vendor? If they're not able to find a solution, that's when they're resorting to building, right? Again, it's also pockets. For example, when it comes to payments, I don't think anyone is building. No one is saying, I'll build my own payments infrastructure. I think eyes closed, you would go after someone like Stripe or PayPal. You're not even thinking about it, right? But there are certain pockets. Let's say you want to send out emails from your product. You would use something like a SendGrid or AWS SES, and you don't even think about it, right? Auth is at that stage today, right? 5 years back, 6 years back, if you find a founder in a room and then ask him, what are you doing about your Auth? He'll say, I'm building it. Today, if we ask the same question to a set of founders in a room, they'll say, we bought this solution or we are using this solution. Because solutions are there in the market that you may have to integrate and do some work, but the shift has moved from build before buy to buy before build. I think that transition is extremely great. Of course, there are still certain pockets where engineering leaders still don't want to buy a solution. Like, for example, if you take authorization as a solution, engineering leaders still say, I can't outsource this problem is too close to my product, I have to build it. I don't think there is any product that I can buy that solves my problem. My fundamental hypothesis is it'll change 3 years down the line, 4 years down the line. The landscape is changing so dramatically that more and more engineering leaders will identify that buying a solution for access control is much, much easier, economical, and faster rather than building something your own.
Let's get deeper into authentication or auth in general. Let's start by defining some of these terms, because there are like so many jargons and acronyms that are going to come up in this conversation. First, what is the difference between authentication and authorization?
See, authentication is the process of you identifying who the user is and verify whether the user who he says it is, right? Again, you can use different ways to verify the identity of the user. Like if you take the physical world example, if I go in as, hey, I'm Aditya, you will show some sort of a identity proof, like your PAN card or Aadhaar card or whatever proof that says, hey, this is me who it says it is, right? The similar thing happens in a digital world also, right? Hey, I am this particular person. Let's say I'm ABC at example.com. How does the system verify that, hey, this is that person? The previous era applications used to say, hey, when you're registering for the first time with me that you're ABC at example.com, set a password. And every time you come back again, I'll ask whether you're the same person or not by verifying whether you give the same password or not, right? But again, we have known that password is not a really secure way to do things, because passwords get stolen. People reuse the same password in 100 different places. So there's all sorts of security issues with the passwords thing, right? Now that's where the kind of identity brokers came in the middle, the likes of Google and Facebook and Twitter and all these different people, even Apple, that says, hey, you ask me how to validate whether this user is actually ABC at example.com. So now all these B2C and B2B applications started using this, login with Google, login with Facebook to verify the user's identity. And they trust Google that Google has verified that they are who they say they are. And I don't have to use a different mechanism to verify this person's identity, right? Again, there are lots of different authentication. Again, authentication is all about identifying who the user is and verifying the identity via some trusted mechanism, right? Now, authorization is about once you've identified the user, you need to figure out whether they're allowed in your house. Or if they're allowed, what can they do, what can they not do? Authorization is all about after the identity verification, what access do you want to grant to that person? What permissions would you allow to that user to do certain activities in the context of your application? Authentication is extremely important. Authorization is even more important because it doesn't matter who I say I am, but then what is more important is you allow me to do things only I'm supposed to do. Let's say you don't let an electrician into your bedroom locker. It's as simple as that. They're supposed to go to a certain place, do a certain job, and then get out, right? It's very, very similar to digital world, right? Once a person establishes their identity with you, you let them in to do a certain task. Don't let them do anything beyond that. So that authorization rules govern what a user can do or cannot do.
Let's go to SSO and SAML. What does it mean?
Yeah, so I spoke about identity brokers. I spoke about general identity brokers like Google and Facebook. In a B2C setup, most of us consumers have accounts with Google and Facebook and Twitter and whatnot. And then we allow these identity brokers to verify our identity and help log into different solutions. But in a B2B setup, we're all using our alter egos, or we're using our work emails, our work identity. We don't have a work identity stored in these social providers, right? So that is where all these enterprise businesses or larger businesses buy solutions like Microsoft and Okta to manage their employee identities and their access to different solutions that the company is using. Now, if you are trying to build a B2B application and sell it to these enterprise customers, typically these enterprise customers ask you to integrate with their identity solution because they say, I am managing my employee identities and access in my solution. I don't want them to log in and verify their identity with your product via any other means other than what I control. And I control my identity provider. So this is where the different acronyms like single sign-on, SAML, OpenID, and all these things came in. Single sign-on is about if a business has a solution that manages their employees' identity and access, employees should be able to log into that particular central identity provider and be able to access all the applications that they should have access to without them having to register and log into every tool that they're accessing for their work purposes. Because they're only signing on once and using that authentication process to sign on to every other application that they have access to, this is kind of single sign-on, right? But how does a business application who is outside of this corporate network integrate with this identity provider that this enterprise company is using and exchange the employee's information securely to let the user use that particular product? So this is where a couple of frameworks and specifications that came out to allow the secure exchange of employee data between two different systems. SAML is one of those which kind of came up in 2005. And then OpenID came in 2012-15 and it got stabilized over a period of time. But the whole idea is SAML and OpenID, they're all different ways of letting two systems talk to each other and trust each other to verify users' identity without one application using a completely different means of creating and establishing those identity verification processes.
So an example of an identity provider would be someone like Okta.
Yeah, Okta is a very, very good example. But before Okta, you had this Microsoft, when Windows was at its peak. Correct. You had these Active Directories that they used to sell in Windows servers. You had to buy a Windows Server machine, install the Active Directory, and manage all your employee access in that particular machine, and then it gets propagated across the network. Okta came and said, hey, why are you doing it in an old-fashioned way? I'll do it in the cloud. So you can manage all your employees and the identity in cloud. So Okta is a very, very good example.
Let's go to RBAC. So, role based access control. What does it mean from the context of an enterprise?
Yeah. So again, it's a very interesting question, right? We spoke about authorization a little while back. So we spoke about an application needs to give certain access and permissions to a user after he comes in through the gates. RBAC is a way for that application to offer those privileges and permissions for that particular user. How does an application know what permissions to be granted to a user, right? There can be John at example.com who's coming through the gates, and there can be Dave at the rate of example.com who's coming through the gates. So RBAC is about assigning certain permissions to be done for a certain role. Like an electrician can do certain things, a plumber can do certain things, an owner can do certain things. And every user who has that role can only do those activities that are permitted at a role level, right? That is what is called as role-based access control. What a user can do is dependent on what role does the user have or what permissions that are accrued because of the role that he has in that particular application. So that RBAC defines, based on the user's role, what activities can a user do in the application.
Can you define OAuth? What is it, and what is needed for the implementation?
Yeah, it's a it's a very tricky question. Again, like I said earlier, every application, I'm talking about early 2000s, right? Every application had their own way of verifying identities of a user who is coming in, right? And then there is this group of companies that came together and said, hey, why should every user register with every application that they're using and then verify the identity in a completely different manner? Why don't we create an open ecosystem where any trusted party can act as identity broker? They can verify the identity so that the user doesn't have to register completely different identities with different applications that they're using. So OAuth came as a framework to let a business application kind of grant access based on what permissions and scopes that they have with respect to context of the particular user that is trying to grant access, right? The typical example that everyone quotes is, I am building, let's say, video editor application, but all my videos are stored in my Google Drive. How do I get access to your videos? Either you have to download from your Google Drive and upload in my system, or you give me your username and password to your Google account. I'll log into Google Drive and get those videos by myself. Right? Both of them not secure and also very cumbersome. So OAuth kind of evolved as a framework for the user to grant access to the video editor application for specific videos that he stored in his Google Drive. It is a way for these two systems to talk to each other on behalf of the user and get certain access for the user's content, right? That's how OAuth has started. Of course, it went through multiple iterations of how these systems can talk to each other in secure fashion, because the whole industry has evolved since first OAuth proposed. There's a surge of mobile applications that came in. There's a surge of single-page applications that only rely on the kind of browser. They don't have a persistent storage in the database and things like that. So OAuth has evolved over a period of time. And they realize that, hey, these two systems are not talking to each other for anything other than to verify a user's identity. Like, they don't want anything other than the user's information. And they said, okay, let's build a smaller kind of trimmed down spec of the entire OAuth, and they created OpenID. So OpenID has become a powerful standard that is built on top of OAuth for two systems to securely exchange information about a user's identity. So just like SAML, which relies on XML and kind of SOAP-based technology, and now which is over to HTTPS also, OAuth kind of lets two systems talk to each other, having, if a user grants access for application 1 to get the data in the application 2, it provides a mechanism for these systems to talk to each other.
So what is going through my mind is that as a CTO, I can either build all of this or I can go and build my own business. I think that brings us to the problem Skillkit is solving.
Exactly. Again, can't CTO build all of this? Of course you can. It's not like we are sending a rocket to the moon. But is it the time? Is it the best value for the time for you and your engineering team to spend on? Right. I think that's the whole democratization thing that we're talking about, right? You can build your own infrastructure and you can build your own server farms. You don't need to use AWS or GCP and things like that. But that's not the best use of your time. So that's the value proposition that Skillkit is going after.
So when it comes to different authentication methods, like what are the methods that are being used today, and do you see this evolving in the future?
Yeah, so we spoke about passwords earlier. I think we need to get rid of passwords. So often I get notifications. I have a Google One account. So Google One has this feature where they'll scour the internet to see if your email address or your personal information is leaked online. Almost on a weekly basis, I get alerts saying that your information got leaked because the database of this particular company that breached, right? So you have nothing to do with this. I use secure passwords because I keep rotating my passwords and I randomly generate these passwords, and then I use my password manager to store these passwords just for this reason. But they're still getting leaked. So what's the point? I think we need to, as an industry, move beyond passwords and to more trusted solutions like either social providers or kind of passwordless technologies using WebAuth and biometrics and passkeys, and even the plain old simple SMS OTP and email OTP is better than passwords. If you are building a B2B application and going after enterprise customers, there is 100% chance that you will be asked to integrate with their identity provider via SAML and OIDC or Auth, any other protocol, right? So predominantly as a B2B founder, you need to look at the landscape as, hey, I need to implement 5-6 different ways of letting users log into my particular product. You need to figure out how to build each of them securely, but at the same time making sure that your users have a better time using your product and logging in. Security is a very tricky thing, right? You can make things secure by making it harder for your users to log into your product, but that doesn't solve the problem. You need to find the right balance between it needs to be secured, but at the same time, you should not make your customer jump through 100 hoops just to access your particular product. It needs to be secure and accessible. And you need to make that choice and build that for every authentication method that you're going through. Either you're doing email-based OTP or social login. But I think we are at a phase where we will see more and more applications, both in the B2C world and B2B world, using passkeys and WebAuth as a way to securely authenticate a user into the particular product, because it is phishing resistant, it is social engineer resistant. There's absolutely nothing anyone can do unless they have that physical device, and the physical device again are secured by either your Face ID or fingerprints or even lock patterns. So that way they're extremely secure by nature. And because these devices and browsers have collaborated in making that experience of just using your face to log into your phone that much more easier. So it's also extremely simple for your users to understand how to use those methods to log into your product as well. They already know what needs to be done. You don't need to train them. They don't need to remember anything because they're not going to forget their face tomorrow. It's not like their fingerprint is going to change tomorrow. So they don't have to do anything. It's just there. How securely would you add these capabilities to your product? I think that's what is going to happen in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line, where most applications will say, okay, I'll just use a biometric-based authentication that's already there in your device. It's also secure because these devices are not actually sending in the biometric information. There is no biometric data that is actually leaving your device. So these applications don't have access to your data per se, biometric data per se. So even if their database gets leaked, like none of your information is getting leaked. So I think that is the future. And you would see that by more and more products adopting this way to integrate into this application. And I see that more and more enterprise customers also demanding that, hey, enable biometric based authentication to your business application. I think, yeah, that is the future.
Do you think AI will have any impact on the world of authentication and security at large?
I think it will definitely play a role. Today, the predominant value that I see AI can bring in is anomaly detection or a bot detection, right? For example, AI can quickly tell me either an authentication pattern or an access pattern is different from how this user regularly behaves over the last 6 months. I can use the data to determine that, hey, it's maybe a bot acting as Adi instead of Adi himself. And I can take necessary security prevention mechanisms to disallow that bot to log in as the particular user, right? Or the audit, right? I want to see what happened in the last 6 months, which users logged into the particular product, what is their usage pattern like, how did they log in, did they use secure methods or not, or did they log in from completely different IP addresses. So the audit has, because there is a lot of data that is actually getting generated by how you users are using the product. You can use these AI agents to crunch that data and then summarize and then create an actionable insights for you to determine, hey, has there been a security breach in the last, 5 minutes, right? Because security breaches, you can't let them happen for a longer period and say 1 month later, let me review the data, right? The AI can do a really good job of crunching all the data, finding anomalies, summarizing information, and letting you take appropriate actions in the right manner. I think these two are the areas where I see AI playing a very, very major role before a user logs in and after a user logs in. Use all the data that you have, generate the right next steps.
Let's talk about the Freshworks journey. So, the Freshworks Mafia, more than 50 startups have been spawned so far. There is Rocket Lane, SuperOps, Plum, Everstage, and of course, Scalekit now. So, what is it about the Freshworks journey that has enabled so many ex employees to go on and start their own ventures?
Yeah, I think I'm going to see a lot more in the future too. But I think more importantly, it comes down to Girish, CEO of Freshworks. I think the culture that he has built in the company, obsessing about the customer, obsessing about the problem that their customer is trying to solve, obsessing about how you're solving that particular problem for that customer. I think those are fundamental first principles that Girish instills in everyone that he works with in general, right? And also, Freshworks made a lot of acquisitions, right? They brought a lot of great people together. They made these people work with other good people in the company, learn from each other's experience, and fundamentally always keep thinking about, hey, what is the next problem that we're solving for the customer, right? And when you have that kind of attention to detail about who is your customer, what is this problem, how can I solve the problem, it's very natural that you will see around the world and then say, hey, for this particular persona, there is this problem and there is no good solution out there. Let me go build that solution for that particular problem, right? So I think that is predominantly the reason why you see a lot of startups coming out of Freshworks. I think it's the single-minded nature of looking at customers' problems and then trying to add value in that particular space. I think that's what is driving most of these startups that you see coming out of Freshworks. And also Girish as a person is a great guy. He's very humble. He is always happy to share the journey that he went through and what are the mistakes one should avoid. So again, you see that conversation happening and then you realize, okay, I can do that too because I have a mentor who can help me if I go through a wrong road. So I think that kind of a role model, if you see, I think that makes a huge difference too. Like if you take a step back, right, in 90s and 2000s, you have this Infosys and Naramurthy coming and then showing, okay, we can build software companies out of India. And then there are a lot of services companies that came out because kind of he showed the way how it needs to be done and what needs to be done, and actually showed the way that it's possible, first of all, right? And I think Girish did that for product companies to come out of India and then build a product solution for the world. Now we kind of have a role model who has done it before, telling us that it is possible to do it. Two, this is how you can do it. These are the mistakes that you would want to avoid. So not only he's acting as kind of a torchbearer, but also telling us how to navigate some of the tricky situations. So I think these two are what I credit for a lot of startups coming out of Freshworks journey.
What was it like going through the IPO journey internally at Freshworks?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very, very exhilarating time. I think a lot of people worked hard towards making it happen. I'm actually talking about the first 50 or first 100 people who kind of trusted Girish and his vision to build a kind of a product company from India that could go IPO 10 years down the line. No one had thought of that before, right? No one has seen that particular journey. So for those first 100 people who trusted Girish just in the vision, and actually a lot of them were still there during the IPO, so I can sense the kind of happiness and pride that they went through. And for me, that's a great inspiring moment on what these guys built. It's not just about Girish, but all the people who worked hard to bring the company towards that stage, because it's not easy building a company from India, solving for customers in the world, and then trying to compete against the likes of Zendesk and other incumbents. It's not easy, and it's testament to the talent that we have in India and the kind of leader that Girish is. So for me personally, more than anything else, seeing the joy and happiness of those people who worked hard towards that vision, that was a great moment for me.
I think Freshworks has definitely been a bit of a trailblazer and setting this motion of build in India and sell to the world. So, what is it about the Freshworks culture or how you approach product management or selling that enables this kind of a journey?
Yeah. So again, Freshworks has always been a product first company. When I mean by product first company is Girish always thinks about solving problems, right? It's not about building features. Tell me who the customer is. Tell me what the problem is. Why is the problem important to be solved? And then let's talk about how to solve the particular problem, right? And this framework is extremely easy to articulate and align people internally also. Once they know what problem we are solving, everyone comes and chips in with their own ideas. And once you know that this problem needs to be solved, I think it's kind of different to how Amazon operates. There are not a lot of documents being written about this is how it needs to be solved, etc. It's a very visual process in the sense that there is a designer and a product manager who are sitting together and then say, okay, this is how we are going to solve the problem, right? And it's very, very easy to look through the solution than read through the solution. It's extremely easy to articulate how you're going to solve the problem and what are the different stages that the customer is going through the journey and how they see the problem being solved. So that process internally is, I don't know if it's unique, but then that's the first time that I've seen through the process, right? Don't come with docs, come with mocks. So create a mock for everything. You don't know if that gets realized, but then it's easier to talk through a solution if I can see the journey that the customer is going through. So there's something called I2P process that Girish has designed, basically idea to product. Once you have an idea, talk about the context, involve a product manager, designer, and an architect, let them figure out the solution, come with the mocks, work with the entire team, ensure the team is aligned, and then take it to the particular product, right? So this visual creation of the solution, I think it's a great way to align everyone, especially in this world where most of us are remote. It's even easier to align when we see how the solution is going to look like, rather than just reading through a 6-page document, because everyone will create their own version of the elephant. Someone touches the trunk, someone touches the leg, someone touches the back. You don't know the whole picture. So this mocks as a way to align the problem statement solution is it definitely make things easier. It may take some cycles because writing a document is easier than creating a mock, but actually creating a mock even lets you go through the journey of, hey, is this the right way to solve this particular problem? Is it actually solving the problem in the first place? So I think, that is unique to Freshworks. And like I said, it's a product first company. Everything is about ideas. Okay, tell me the problem, tell me your idea. Don't just bitch about a problem, right? So, and because everyone is empowered to think like a problem solver, naturally you get a lot of ideas. Now, as a product manager, all you need to worry about is which of these problems should I prioritize, and that's a great place to be in. So that's kind of how product team operates at Freshworks.
Right. And I think that DNA is exactly the thing that is starting to permeate the entire Indian SaaS ecosystem now.
Exactly. I credit uh, a lot to what Freshworks and Girish has done to the ecosystem a lot.
Let's go back to your journey. Can you tell us a little bit more about your childhood and any formative experiences that you had that helped shape your worldview?
Oh wow, that's a very deep question. Uh, I don't know. I mean, it's a there's nothing striking or unique about my childhood. Okay, let me just put some facts around. Right, I grew up in rural Andhra Pradesh, where I studied in a government high school in Telugu medium till 10th class. My father is a teacher. His father is a teacher. My uncles are teachers. So we come from this family where study, get a job, get married, have kids, retire, die. It's a life cycle that is the only way to succeed, right? If you don't get a job as soon as you graduate of your undergrad, then you're a failure. If you don't get married within 2 years of getting a job, you're a failure. I'm not blaming it. That's the ecosystem, and that's the world that we grew in, right? But all of this changed when I went to Bichplani, because I think that's the first time I stepped out of the comfort of my home and family. And here I am trying to live in a place that is far away from the home, and I have to do everything by myself. So that kind of opened up in terms of what is possible. So because I grew up in a rural village, I was the school first throughout my life. I was kind of a frog in a well, right? But I went to BITS, I saw how average I am and what is actually being really intelligent and smart and hard work is all about. When you're surrounded with that kind of people, there are two things that can happen. Either you can get depressed, dude, where have I come into? Because everyone is smarter than me. I'm no one. I can't do anything, blah, blah, blah. Or you can get inspired. Fortunately, I think the second thing happened to me. I got inspired. I wanted to be as smart as they are. I wanted to work as hard as they are. I wanted to learn more about different opportunities in the world. For example, doing masters in US it's the first time that I learned after going to Pipemonk. I didn't even know that that's possible. I thought people go there just for doing some jobs, right? I didn't know that you can do masters in US and things like that, right? So it kind of opened up my mind about what is possible. I think that's the first thing. That's why you look for role models, right? Because they tell you that it is possible and you can go after it. I think that first started shaping up in Bitswani, right? After that, I went through multiple journeys at work, and I joined Redbus. And again, that's a great formative experience for me. It's about working closely with the likes of Funny and Charan, who are co-founders of Redbus, and then seeing them in the trenches. By the time I joined, Redbus is already a household name. People know that Redbus is where you go to book your bus tickets. But I still see them extremely humble, on the ground, solving every problem, talking to customers day in, day out. It actually opened up my eyes to, okay, this is how a startup works. Startup is not about small number of people. Startup is about solving a problem with limited resources and then trying your best to offer something of value to customers who have that particular problem with constraints. You don't have money, you don't have a lot of people, you don't have comforts, but you're still energized and excited day in, day out because you like solving that particular problem for those people. That's what you drive your energy from. It's not for the paycheck, right? I think that culture is what I enjoyed a lot in Redbus, and that's what actually pushed me to this entrepreneurship and startup journey. It's not about, "Oh, I want to become famous or I want to make more money or things like that." It's about, hey, I love solving problems with the kind of people that I want to work with for the people who have this particular problem. And I think that learning and that experience at Redbus and later doing my own startup for a couple of years and then the Freshworks journey, I think these, like you said, these are all formative experiences, and every day teaches you something if you're open to learning. And I thought I've been blessed to be part of so many great atmospheres and great leaders that led me to where I am today. So now I'm in this journey where, hey, the likes of Narayana Murthy built India in 90s and early 2000s as a services company hub. And the likes of Girish and Sridhar Vembu and the likes are building India as a product or application companies out of India. So we want to do the same for, hey, India should be known for more platform and infrastructure companies and not just as a application product companies. So that is the kind of motivation or the experiences that I've had over the last 15, 20 years that are driving this journey for me. I think that is what I would say is very, very joy driving for me.
As we are talking, I think one thing that strikes me about you is that you are almost a person that really embodies that heads down building type of mentality. And let's talk a little bit more about 0 to 1. And I want to learn a little bit more about what is your philosophy of 0 to 1. Given all the journeys that you have seen, and you're in the middle of one journey right now, what do you think should be a founder's mindset or attitude when approaching a 0 to 1 journey?
Yeah, I think the first thing that you should look at is validating the problem. Is the problem big enough, acute enough for those customers that you're going after? I think that is the number one thing and only thing that you should be worried about. Because it doesn't matter how great your product is, if it's not solving a problem, you're going to have a tough time selling your product. Ideally, you want to be in a pull mode where the prospects and the customers that you want to go after, they want to identify or find your product and they want to drive you to sell them, right? If you're in a push mode where you are trying to educate the market, hey, you have this problem but you don't know it yet, and you should buy this to take away that problem from you, that's going to be a hard place to be in. It may succeed, but then it'll take a long time because now you're educating the market about a problem that they don't even know that they have. And now you're saying your solution is better. So they're not even aligned with you on the problem space. How can you talk about your product and your value and your solution, right? So I think you need to look at, is it a top 3 problem for that particular buyer in my customer persona? For example, when it comes to Scalekit, right? We are building the enterprise authentication and user management solution. So I'm going after engineering leaders and CTOs in Series A, Series B companies. So if they don't care about authentication, if they don't care about security, if they don't care about selling to enterprise customers, then it doesn't matter how great my product is. They just don't see the value. But the minute they have an enterprise customer waiting in the door and saying, hey, I want to buy your product, but then you don't have these enterprise capabilities, I know that they will look for a solution like Scalekit, and that's when I can talk about why Scalekit is a better solution for their particular problem. Then it's not about me telling them that you would have this problem 6 months down the line or 12 months down the line. It's about how I can solve the problem for you, right? I think as a founder in your 0 to 1 journey, you're talking about how do I identify the problem, right? And then you're talking about product market fit. Okay, now you know that, okay, this is an important problem to solve. But then what is the market that you want to operate in, and what kind of persona would identify that this problem is very, very big for them and they need to solve it one way or the other, right? You need to figure out how to solve the problem. That's where your solution comes in. Like once you identify that problem is big, you need to look at how to get to the product market fit stages, right? Unless you got to a decent product market fit journey where they want to pull you into conversations where how much is your pricing? When can I start paying? Can you give me a discount? Those are all good conversations to have. The bad conversations are, what kind of features do you have? Or just nodding saying, oh, this is an interesting product. Those are all bad conversations, right? You just want to make sure that you're doing as many good conversations as possible, or you keep identifying those problems that you can resonate better with your audience. The second most important thing is the kind of team and the culture that you're creating for the folks who are solving this particular problem. Again, you're trying to build a company because you think it will succeed. For a company to succeed, it will take 10 years. That means you want to enjoy these 10 years. So you want to surround yourself with people who give you joy while you're working with them, who motivate you, who help you grow as a person, who help you grow professionally. Like, what's the fun in working with people where they don't enjoy working with you and you don't enjoy working with them, even though your company is being successful? You're just getting tired and stressed at the end of the day. So it's extremely critical for you to think about what kind of people do I want and what kind of culture do I want to create, or am I having fun while building this journey, right? I think first-time founders underestimate how critical it is to have fun while you're doing this journey. That's the only thing that will keep you growing, that will keep you going day in, day out. When things are tough, when some of your prospects turn you down, they say this doesn't look like a good product, or when you get turned down by VCs, the only thing that helps you keep going and then fighting day in, day out is your team. It can be co-founders, it can be leadership team, it can be everyone in the team who actually make the whole process that much more easier and smoother and sweeter. I think one thing that I also needs to be looked at is, if you're married, ensure that you're bringing your partner along for the ride. You don't want to have a shitty personal life just because you want to enjoy your work. I think these are not mutually exclusive problems. you want to make sure that you have a happy family life at home and also happy work life. Not necessarily you're cracking deals every day, but at least you have a team that you would love working with, and you'll have a partner who loves having a family with you, right? I think these are the three key factors that that people usually overlook when they're doing their 0 to 1 journey. They get too stressed because they don't have a happy personal life, or they get too stressed because they don't trust their team enough, or they get too stressed because they're not able to sell their product enough. I think the third one is iterative, but the first two are something that you can't change. You need to start thinking about them from day zero.
What was the most challenging moment in building Scalekit so far?
Um, I don't know. I don't know if I should say challenging, but yeah. See, what we are building is kind of an authentication and security platform for B2B applications, right? So the problem is hard, and if you want to build the right product in the right way, it will take time. So constantly reminding myself that, hey, it is a long journey. You got to be patient. You can't expect overnight results, I would say, is a mentally challenging thing for me personally, which is stay focused. Don't look for short-term solutions. If you want to build a great company, it takes a long time, and you just need to stick with the process. Trust the people whom you have. Trust that you have identified the problem that is worth solving, and then trust that you will eventually solve it. Maybe it'll take 6 months longer than an application product, right? It's just because of the nature of the product that you're building, right? I think that mental discipline is what is challenging. There are times when I would get impatient, I would get frustrated. Oh, why are we not doing that thing? Why is it taking so long for us to do this? But I think just keep telling yourself that, dude, it's a long journey. Just stay patient, and then stay positive and stay focused. I think that's been the biggest challenging thing mentally, more than anything else.
Since you have a product background as well, I'd love to understand your approach to product management a bit more. How do you approach product management, things like building roadmap, managing stakeholders?
Yeah. So I think it predominantly evolved from the style that I've seen and liked at Freshworks. So it's always about you're not building features as a product manager. You're not prioritizing what features to be built. You're actually prioritizing what customer problems that you want to solve for, right? So you are constantly balancing three things. One is what problems are important for my customers. Is a problem worth solving? Worth is a very subjective word. So you want to objectify it as much as possible, right? Either it'll increase so much top line revenue, or it'll decrease so much churn, or it'll increase the CSAT score, or it'll increase the NPS score. Somehow have objective metrics to evaluate a problem's worth. And the third thing I always talk about is, as a product manager, you are the least empowered person in the team, right? But you are the most responsible person in the team. So you are in the business of constantly selling your vision, selling your idea to your internal stakeholders, why some problem needs to be solved. And I keep telling this to my product folks. We're in the business of convincing your engineering counterparts why they need to spend their time solving this particular problem and not some other problem. So the minute you get into that mode where you are not prioritizing a roadmap, but rather you're constantly challenging yourself to let engineers give away their time to build a product vision that you think in your head, right? I think that's a powerful learning that I've had, where you're not constantly talking about do it this way because I told you so, but more like, hey, why don't we solve it this way because the customer is facing this problem. Then I've had great experiences where the engineering teams came back with a better proposal which can be done in a shorter time frame and solves the problem in a much cleaner way for the customers. So the minute you're engaging the engineering team as a product manager into solving problems for customers, they would love it, because engineers are solving problems, they're not building features, right? And similar thing happens with the marketing team or the sales team that you're working with, where salespeople are predominant portion of their revenue or income, not revenue, if the income comes from selling the product. See, they would love you if you can help them sell the product more. They want to sell the product more. So you need to help them with two things. One, tell them how to sell the product, or what product, tell them how to pitch the product, right? How should you position the product? Whom should they go after to sell your product? And then make the product much better for them and easier for them to sell, right? And if you keep helping the sales folks, again, sales folks are, I think one of my best conversations happened with them because they give you unfiltered feedback. If they see something wrong with the product, they tell you, because their income is dependent on the product being better. So they keep delivering the conversations that they had with their customers or prospects who either they enjoyed or they did not enjoy. And even though at that time it feels like, dude, why is this person so harsh and rude with me? We're all in the same company. He's coming from a different mindset. He wants to sell. He has nothing against you, right? And as a product manager, if you're able to learn from those conversations with your sales folks, I think that will give you the most useful feedback that you'll get about your product. Of course, only second to the customers. And the marketing team, I think the product management and the product marketing, the closer they work, and the earlier they start working, I think it's going to do wonders for the company as a whole, because both of them need to be kind of completely logged in, zoned in about what the problem is, who the persona is, why should they care about your particular product. I think we don't, in India especially, we don't emphasize or give enough importance to product marketing. But I believe fundamentally product marketing can be the single most factor for your company to be successful or a failure. It's not engineering, it's not product management, it's not sales team, it's not CEO. I think product marketing is the most critical team in a company. If you have a great product marketing team, you can do wonders with the product that you have. I'm not trying to say other teams are less useful or less important, but I'm just saying product marketing teams deserve a seat at the table because they determine how successful your product can be. Like if you have a great product marketing team, I think they'll take you to the moon.
So I'm thinking about the status quo for specifically product and tech teams in the startup ecosystem today. So these are two teams, product and tech, that hopelessly need each other, but they're also in a state of perpetual tug of war. Yeah. So what would you recommend, one, to product managers, and two, to engineers to set up a positive cadence, a positive interaction between these two teams?
I think it's healthy to have both of them at their throats. I think that brings the best of each other. Again, like I said, healthy. Like I said earlier, product managers need to respect engineers for the value that they bring to the table. Product manager, doesn't matter how good his idea is or how good the solution that he's coming up with. If he doesn't have the engineering team, he can't do anything, right? So he needs to respect the time of the engineers. I think more importantly, it boils down to that. At least that's how I look at it. When I'm asking an engineer to uh, build a capability or solve a problem, I try to give them as much context about the problem itself rather than about the solution. Only if they tell me that they understood the problem and why we need to solve it today, do I go about, okay, this is how we are solving it, right? Because when you involve them at the problem state, because they are the ones who is building the stuff, they will have a lot more natural ideas about how it will evolve or what complications that they oversee that we might have missed. Um, so I think if you treat them as partners, where as a product manager you're constantly trying to get the engineering team to give away their time, I think you'll be a lot more respectful of what they bring to the table. On the flip side, I think engineering team needs to question their product management more. They need to, instead of just doing things the product manager prioritizes, I think the engineering team should ask, why is this important? Why should I solve this particular problem? Because by asking this question, you're not being critical of your product management counterpart, but you're actually helping them clarify their own thoughts. Sometimes what happens is there is this intuition at play for some of the great product managers. If you ask them the right questions, they'll give you the right answers. But they don't think that you don't know the problem. They think, hey, you already know why we are doing this. I don't have to tell you why. But the engineering team may not have that context. So if the engineering team does not have the context, I think they should definitely question the product management team on, why are we doing this? Why is this important? Why should we be done this way? What do you want to achieve doing this? How do you think it will help the product? How do you think it will help the company? Questioning the product management team is the number one thing that engineering team should do. Second thing is respect, right? So when you question, if you don't respect your product manager, either because you think he doesn't know the customer enough, or either because you think he doesn't know the problem enough, or you think he comes up with shitty solutions, of course you can't respect the product manager. The minute you stop respecting your product management, I think that's where the relationships break down. So first thing is, as a product manager, you need to earn the respect of your engineering counterpart. That means you need to do a lot more work upfront. Again, talking about why is this important, right? And the minute engineers have a respect towards the product manager, I think what I have seen is they do everything they can to build the vision that you're thinking, even more and bigger and better than you can think of. But again, there should be that healthy tussle and healthy push and pull between these two teams. I don't want them to be in the same bed every night. I want them to fight, but then I want them to fight in a healthy way for the betterment of the product in the company. That's how I look at it.
What would be your advice to someone building in the developer tool space?
Yeah, you would. I think you need to focus on building a community, community of developers. And when you're building a community, don't think about your specific problem space. Try to be a helpful community where you're not trying to push your product onto them, but you're just trying to help them. Let me talk about Scalekit, right? We are in the authentication business. I don't want to push Scalekit as a product if someone wants to build authentication, right? But rather, I would want to help developers understand how Auth works, for example, right? It doesn't matter if you use Scalekit or not. At the end of the day, if you learned how Auth works and then you're incorporating Auth in a way that is secure and safe in your particular product, that's a win for me, right? Just be helpful towards the community that you're growing, right? Because engineers don't want to be sold to or don't want to be marketed to, don't sell and market to these folks, right? Just try to be helpful try to teach them something that they don't know already. Try to connect them with some other engineering leaders who went through similar journeys in their companies and learn from their experiences, right? I think single most important thing that you should focus as a DevTools product is building a community, building a helpful kind of aggregator of talent where they can learn from each other, if not directly from you. I think that's very important thing. The second important thing is you have to give them some way to play with your product. They don't want to come to your demos and webinars and all that. They want to use it. They want to play with it and then make a decision for themselves how good or if it's even any good, right? It can be open source version if that's what you're into. It can be a free trial. It can be community edition, whatever you want to call it. But let them play with your product for freely for as long as they want. Because eventually, I think this is what I've observed, most developers don't make decisions in 1 week, 2 week, 3 week periods. Because they know that buying a product, especially in the dev tool space, it's a longer journey, and it's not every day that they'll replace a tool that they've already made a purchase decision. So they want to make sure that they look at that particular product and evaluate it from every angle possible, from performance point of view, from deployment cost point of view, from operations cost point of view, from maintenance point of view. So they can only do that if they have a first-hand feel of how to use a product and first-hand feel of them putting your product through all the rigors of what they actually see in their production use cases. So you want to give them a version where they can play with for as long as they want. And then eventually, if your product is good, they will come back to you and then they'll push you to sell it to them. So I think these are the two important things that I look at. One is community, and second is some sort of sandbox or a community edition that they can play with.
What is next for Scalekit? What are you guys looking forward to in the next 6 to 12 months?
I think we are in this journey of building more and more authentication capabilities for B2B products. We started with 2 products, which is SAML authentication or single sign-on as a service, and SCIM provisioning or automatic user provisioning as a service, where any B2B product, they're going after enterprise customers. They need these critical capabilities to make the deal. They can work with Scalekit and get those capabilities in a matter of a couple of hours or less than a day, right? Now we are going after expanding the use cases to more and more B2B companies. Hey, let me be your entire authentication engine, and not just about enterprise authentication, but entire authentication. I'll take care of who your users are. I'll take care of how do they verify their identity. It can be passwords, it can be passwordless, it can be social, it can be enterprise, doesn't matter. If you're building a B2B company, you should be able to use Scalekit as your authentication engine and you shouldn't have to touch it for the next 10 years. It doesn't matter what kind of customers that you're going to bring in, right? So that's what we are going after in the next 6 months. And then we want to add authorization layer to it. So if you're building a B2B product, it's not just about how or whom to let someone in, but also about what are their roles, what permissions do they have, what can they do, what can they not do. So we want to be your entire authentication, user management, and access management layer for your B2B application. That's the journey that we're going after in the next 6 to 12 months.
Look, Ravi, thank you so much for doing this. I think this has been like a really insightful conversation. And I think it's one that most CTOs or technical leaders, they either don't think about it properly, or like it's an integral part of the journey. It has to be solved for you to actually go back to accomplishing your mission. And I think in that sense, it was super insightful and educational for me, and I'm sure for the audience as well.
Thank you so much, Adi. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Awesome.